Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review for you all, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a horror film from the USA, English language, released in the year 2024, directed by Leigh Whannell, and this film is called Wolfman. So Wolfman is about a family that are going to an inherited family farmhouse. They get there one evening and then they're attacked by a mysterious animal. So the father has been bitten and they seek refuge inside the farmhouse and they're going to try and figure out what they're going to do to get to safety. But as the night progresses, the condition of the father starts to deteriorate to the point where the family actually believe that the father could be just as dangerous as what's outside. So what happens at that point on is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Wolfman. I had absolutely no expectations of liking this movie whatsoever. This is a Hollywood mainstream sort of mega budget horror film that is directed by an Australian director that I want to love, but I just can't love because I feel as though the curse of the Hollywood studio is really holding this director down. Now this director, Leigh Whannell, he combined with James Wan to make a movie called Saw that I thought was absolutely fantastic, the very first Saw film, and we know that that has since become a massive franchise. But since that movie, they have really made a name for themselves, and the more recognition they've got, the more watered down their movies have become. So James Wan has gone on to make superhero films. Leigh Whannell has made a movie called The Invisible Man that I didn't share the love for. I thought as though that was incredibly overrated. If you want to know my thoughts on that movie in more detail, please go out and check out the review. But I really didn't like that film. And so coming into Wolfman, I thought this is a subgenre that I absolutely love. I'm not going to tell you what the movie is or what the subgenre is, but if you see the title and you see the trailer, kind of figure it out yourself, but I don't give any spoilers in my movie. So this particular subgenre, I absolutely love. When it's done properly, it's absolutely fantastic, but unfortunately, this subgenre is played by mediocrity. And so that was another reason why I didn't really feel as though I was going to enjoy this film. And so this is a movie that doesn't have a lot of love behind it. So this is a film that a lot of people have criticised, and so I thought, all right, well, that's interesting. A lot of people loved Invisible Man, and I hated Invisible Man. Am I going to actually like this movie a little bit more than the majority are actually making me believe? So after watching Wolfman with absolutely no expectations, I come away from this movie actually quite surprised at how much I actually appreciated this film. Now, it is a bit better than the majority will make it out to believe. It's not a perfect film. There are issues that I'll go into a little bit later. But what I really liked about Wolfman is that it's much more of a mature sort of horror film. It actually reminded me of a film called Mutants from France. No one ever talks about Mutants. Again, I reviewed that film a long, long time ago. Please check out the review to find more detail about what I thought of that film. But what I loved about Mutants, it wasn't so much about a zombie film. It was more a movie about coping with illness, coping with terminal illness, coping with a loved one who was deteriorating before your very eyes. And so it's a character study of loved ones banding together and trying to cope with a really extreme situation. And Wolfman was the same type of film. It actually gave me the impression that it was more of a character study about individuals and how love can turn into fear, and fearing the one that you absolutely love and how tragic and catastrophic that can be. So the family dynamics inside this farmhouse was just as threatening as what was outside, and the mystery as to what was outside I actually thought was quite fascinating, because there are some set pieces that I thought caused the hairs on the back of my neck to stand up. There were some moments that were incredibly effective, and the jump scares were few and far between. So that's something I really appreciated. But it was the family dynamics that kept me interested until the horror set pieces started to come in. And that was something that surprised me, because a lot of these movies, it's all about jump scares, it's all about what the Hollywood studios believe is going to make money. And this movie took a risk, and I can understand why a lot of people didn't like it, because it's not the film that you actually expect it to be. And so this particular subgenre needs films like this, because it's thrown in there and it felt like it wasn't a lazy film. For once, this is a mainstream Hollywood horror film that felt like it actually had a little bit of love behind it. So the acting was fantastic. I actually genuinely got into the family dynamic, the chemistry between everybody I thought was actually very authentic. And when this catastrophic event starts to deteriorate, I could sense that the level of tragedy. When a loved one is deteriorating before your very eyes, whether it's cancer or any other illness, is actually quite heart-wrenching. And I thought as though, all right, I'm actually going through a family drama of an extreme situation and how it's tearing it apart. On top of that, you actually have some fairly effective horror set pieces that actually makes this movie a three-dimensional experience. And so that's something I really liked. I really liked the camera angles. There was one moment where you actually get to notice what the threat is outside, and the way that it's shot, it has a panning sort of use of the camera that I thought was incredibly effective. And so that's something that really put the hairs on the back of my neck to stand up, is because it was actually quite chilling. And then there are some gory moments right at the end that really cap off that wick that is slowly burning to the dynamite. And when the dynamite hits, it does hit in a way that was actually quite horrific, and so that's something that I liked as well. And the perspective of this father who's been bitten, you actually get to see what he's feeling through the visuals, and I thought that was effective too. So there's a lot of creativity in this movie to actually make it worth watching, but unfortunately, amongst the unique creativity, there is a level of generic sort of storytelling that I thought really let it down. At the start of the film, there's a little bit of information that's thrown at the viewer that really becomes predictable because you know how this movie is going to unfold. And so that was just a very disappointing, because I believe it just didn't realise the opportunity that it had. It also drags in moments. I thought as though the continuity was a little bit stagnant here and there. It's a little bit too long. It's not a massively long film, but I thought as though it was a little bit too long because there were moments that it kind of felt like it was elongated to a point where it became a little bit monotonous. And so that was something that I didn't like as well. But pushing that aside, as far as my expectations were concerned, it was a lot better than I was anticipating. If you are a fan of this specific subgenre, please go out there and see it, because it shows that there is still life in this yet, because if it's treated properly, it can be effective. And I definitely felt as though Wolfman was a lot more three-dimensional than I was anticipating. So overall, for Wolfman, going to give this one 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. Go out there and see it. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, watch movies, and I'll see you there.